Warning, the following podcast is brought to you by dads who are still perfecting their dad jokes, but not very well. Welcome to the All Pro Dad Podcast.
Hey, this is the All Pro Dad Podcast. I'm Ted Lowe, dad of 4, and today I'm joined by my buddies, Mr. BJ Foster, dad of 2. BJ.
Hey, Ted.
Good to see you, pal. And Mr. Bobby Lewis, dad of 3.
3 kids. What's up, Ted?
Oh, we're doing good. Hey, today we're talking about spending on our kids. And the latest stat from Lending Tree shows that the annual cost, you guys are not going to believe this, associated with raising a child, and that's from food to apparel to transportation and childcare. It's $29,419. And here's the scariest part. It's up by 35.7%.
That $29,000 is per year?
Per year.
Oh my gosh.
We actually, my kids have to do this. This is a part of their project that they have to do a cost analysis of how much they cost. And my kids are 1 year apart, and it was around that. It was like 24,000, something like that. And all of a sudden my daughter was like up over 30, and the year later, and I thought, boy, girls cost a lot.
Golly.
And my wife reminded me that because of inflation and all that, everything's ground.
I've never thought about it, honestly. I've never taken the time like your kids to add it up, but I guess if I start breaking it down in my head real quickly right now, yeah, I guess we do spend a lot of money, 30 grand a year.
Nothing will make you want to like get the kids graduated and out of your house more than doing a cost analysis.
Hey, peanut butter sandwiches from now on, kids. That's it.
This is how this is going to roll. I know. Just another one graduated from college at our house, and he's like, I want a little help for a few more months, Dad. It's like, okay, I needed it too. So, but did you guys know that families spend an average of 22.6% of their income on the basic annual expenses to raise a child? 22%. So it's already expensive, but on top of that, according to a study by Ameriprise Financial, more than half of parents buy treats and perks for their kids because of feelings of guilt. So close to half said they've overspent on an item or an experience for their kids. So let me ask you guys, are you part of the 50% who have bought things out of guilt or overspent on something for your kids?
No, never.
Liar.
I mean, definitely. It's really hard, like the private lessons, the trips, like passes to theme parks, all these things, you want to give your kids a great childhood. And I would say for our family, I mean, we try to do things like my wife is like an expert in finding deals. Like, I definitely don't think we spend as much as, like the average. We probably spend less, but, and like each one of these things is not excessive. But when you never say no, it's the all of it together, adding it all up, it gets to be a lot.
I want to know, does food count? Because I overspend on food every day. Like I feel like I have my own personal parking space at the grocery store down the street from my house. I don't know how to not stop when I drive by the house. It's like sucking money out of my wallet, this food, because these kids eat so much food. It's like, so yes, if food counts, I'm overspending all the time. But if you're not counting food, then I'm not really an overspender. We do fun things. You mentioned theme parks, BJ. Like we did the theme park tickets this year. We got Disney passes because we live here in Florida. My kids have been asking for years. And so we splurged on that. It was a Christmas gift for them. But that's different even than like going day to day. Like my daughter is turning 14 this week. And so she wants to go and use the Disney passes. And she said, hey, Dad, when we're there, can we eat dinner at this one specific restaurant at Epcot? And so I looked it up on the computer last night, and it's like $45-$50 a person. I'm like, 200. I was like,
there goes the college fund.
Yeah. I'm like, maybe. I was like, that's a lot of money for one dinner for your kids. And then I see people every time we go to the park walking around with these $18 Mickey Mouse balloons. I'm like, you're overspending on your kids. Stop doing that. But I don't really overspend in my mind, but we do want our kids to have a great life. We do want them to have good memories, and money makes memories, you know?
Yeah. When we were talking about this episode, this is a tricky one for us because my wife is really good with money, and she's very thrifty and was a stay-at-home mom when our kids were little. So we were a one-income family, and our kids played sports and they were in activities, but all the extras like eating out a lot or souvenirs, or they never even thought to ask for something in the grocery store in the little impulse aisles. It's just, they knew that was not on the page. And then I'm me. And so it was this moment where it was a collision. I'm sitting there with my, and I might have even shared this on the podcast, I don't know, but we're at Disney. My 7-year-old at the time says to me, Dad, look at all these people wasting their money, because there were all these glow-in-the-dark swords going on. And it was just in my head going, should I get him a sword? Yeah. I even was thinking, should I get myself a sword? And I didn't know when he said they're wasting all this money. I thought, I don't know whether to be sad for him or like proud of him. But you know,
I would have been proud. That would have been an easy one.
But I have to admit, like, I can struggle with going, oh, I want to get him a little bit more like at Christmas. I used to beef up Christmas. Like, she'd show me what she got. And I go, I'm going to beef this up a little bit. And part of this, I think, you know, we're looking at the research, you guys, and we've seen it. Part of this is because there's so much emotion involved when it comes to our kids, and money is not separate from that, right? Like this piece of it. And I think that's part of my problem is I can spend emotionally thinking that it matters on levels maybe that it doesn't. But my dad spent emotionally on us after my mom died. I think it was kind of his way to compensate just a little bit. So did you grow up with your parents spending out of guilt?
Like, it's hard to compare because I've got 2 kids and my parents had 4. So like there were a lot of things, but like Bobby's talking about food, like my wife gets all of the sweet treats that you would want to eat. Like my parents had like peanut chews and ginger snaps. And, you know, I mean, and they're not bad if there's nothing else there.
Did they even love you? My goodness. The
ginger snaps were the cookies that we had. And you know, so, I mean, they were fine, but if I had to pick a cookie, I don't know if I'd pick that one. Yeah. Maybe it was just the one that my dad liked. But I was 21, 22 years old before I crossed the Mississippi. I grew up on the East Coast, and I had never been west of the Mississippi before I was in college. And we've got. I'm looking at it right now. We've got a map of the United States. And every time that we are in a new state, we take a picture, and then the app sends us the photo in the shape of the state, and then That's it goes awesome. On there, and it's in a frame. And we've done 35 states.
Wow, that's awesome.
And the goal is to do 15 more states, and one of them is Alaska. I don't know how but it's like I want us to do that. And every time my wife comes up with a new place, a new state and a place to go, I'm like, we can't afford that. Yeah. And then, I've got all this stress. Like if it was up to me, we wouldn't have been to any states. But I look up there and there are all these great memories from every single trip that I just wouldn't want to get rid of. Like I wouldn't want to get rid of any of those. So there's this, boy, I want my kids to experience, but I want to experience it because they're, I've got maybe 20, 22 years with them before they take off, and maybe they're having families of their own. They're doing their own thing.
When I was growing up, no, my parents did not overspend at all, but I don't think it's because they could. I think they would love to have overspent on us. But I remember my dad, we would go on a family trip to North Carolina in the summers because it was a cabin that his dad built like 50 years ago. So it was part of the family and it was free. But just to get there, he would save all of his change throughout the year in a big jug and like Folgers coffee cans and all the change. And then right before the summer break, he would go to the bank and cash in all the coins. So he had gas to get to North Carolina for our family. So it wasn't like they didn't overspend because they were not caring and wanting to give us good things. It was just difficult. And so I would think a lot of parents wish they could overspend. And that's that guilt thing you were talking about, Ted. Like we spend out of guilt because we want our kids to think we cared. So we spent more to make them think we love them more and all that stuff. It's all factoring into this, you know?
Oh, gosh, that story, Bobby, thinking of your dad saving up in the coffee can. I don't know. It's heartbreaking to think, not heartbreaking. It's, heart feeling, I guess, to think about your dad would do that.
Well, he knew, like, I really want to provide this for my kids. And had we needed to pay for lodging on these vacations, we probably would not have gone on one, but maybe every 2 or 3 years. But because we had a free family place to stay, he made it a priority all year long. You're in the grocery store in May. Oh, I got 40 cents change. It's in the bucket. We're shopping for Christmas and we got an extra 80 cents on this purchase. It's in the bucket. And at the end of the summer, it was enough gas to get us there and back. Which is great. Now, you would need a lot more coins today to fill up your gas tank than in the years that we were going. But he made it a priority. He wanted us to have fun. And so they didn't overspend, but they spent what they could.
Well, I think most of us, no matter where we land on this, I think that our listeners too can relate to the temptation to want to spend on our kids. It's easy to get caught in the trap of wanting our kids to have what their friends have, or we spin out of guilt, or sometimes it's just, Ted, lack of self-control and it's impulse. But I think like your dad, Bobby, it comes from a really pure place of wanting to show love to our kids. And so that is why our big question of the week is, are we spending too much money on our kids? And we've got to really press down on that question. Are we spending too much money on our kids? Because there's some potential problems there wherever you land. And let's just start with some of those. Spending large sums of money, kind of the problems that those can cause. Because here's what I know. Some of you may be listening, you're asking the question, don't we just want to give our kids the best? How is this a bad thing? What's wrong with that?
I mean, that's the thing is I don't think there's nothing wrong with wanting to give your kids the best and to give them a happy childhood. I think the motivation is fantastic there. But we need to remember that, the whole goal, our whole goal is not necessarily to give our kids a happy childhood. It's to raise people who have a healthy way of interacting with the world and can go out in the world and be productive and to have good relationships with people. And so, there can be a number of consequences to this stuff when you kind of think, oh, my kid needs their own private basketball tutor and, or their basketball coach to work on their thing. And they need the very best of this. And they need the best clothes if they're going to step out onto a thing. And they have to have this, gosh, we're on a trip and they want this toy and they have to have it. All these things can, number one, we kind of make our houses very kid-centric, which I do think is one of the things that has changed over the years. I mean, growing up in the 70s and 80s, our houses were not kid-centric. It was like speak when spoken to and that kind of thing, and go outside and I'm not going to buy you the $40 lightsaber that turns on by itself. You go outside and you grab a stick and you make that, you make that the thing. But when we make our houses kid-centric, I mean, kids can get very entitled. They can expect all of the best things. They won't learn the blessing of learning how to wait for things and learning how to work for things and kind of going through struggle and all those things. So yeah, it can definitely cause a sense of entitlement.
And when you said wait for things, that triggered a memory in my mind. When I was 16 years old, I was on the high school baseball team, and my parents, like I said, they didn't have a ton of money. My dad bought me a car from my grandparents. So the grandparents didn't need this 1993 Mercury Sable station wagon anymore, which I don't know if you know this, but that attracts all kinds of girls. The old station wagon when you're driving through the high school parking lot, not exactly a Ferrari. But I was on a baseball team with kids whose dads owned a car dealership. And so they were pulling up to practice in like brand new Tahoes, Suburbans, really nice cars. And I told my dad, I was like, Dad, this is just not fair. Like, look at this thing with the missing bumper. Like, it's just not cool. I wanted something nice. And he said, you wouldn't appreciate it. And I was like, well, I still want it. And he's like, of course you do. He's like, but listen, even if I could afford it, I'm not going to do it because you won't learn to appreciate it. He's like, if you work hard and you make money and you save it and you learn over the course of your life to value the dollar and you buy it with your own money someday, you'll appreciate it. And darn it, he was right, because 20 years later, I bought a $30,000 regular car. But I was like, man, this is the same car basically as that high school kid had on my team, but I bought it with my own money. And I'm so proud of this car that I bought for my family, and we're driving around. And I remembered that conversation with my dad. Even if I had the money, I'm not going to do it because you won't appreciate it. And he was 100% on the money.
Well, circle back to BJ when you're talking about that it leads to entitlement. And that's a little bit, Bobby, what you're saying about your dad, right? They want to lead to entitlement. My dad bought me a new car when I was 16 years old. And I look back now going, what are you thinking? And when my son when my son got his driver's license when he was 16, I took a picture beside him in a brand new sports car, which is what my dad had bought me. And I sent it to my dad and I said, look, just keeping the tradition alive. And he lit up like, what are you doing? Seeing his grandson in a car. And of course I quickly said, no, that doesn't happen because, one, can't afford it, but two, because of their mama. But I think one of the things that I've appreciated Nancy's way of guiding us more in that way is because our kids aren't entitled. And even the one that's more like a spender like me, I think that's because she's helped us gauge that and go in that direction and not always feel like she has to buy everybody. If she buys one of them something, she feels like she's got to buy everybody something. Like she doesn't have that geared at all. So I've appreciated that part of it. But I think there's a couple of times throughout the year that all of us can feel a little bit more pressure, and that's toward birthdays and holidays. And there was a stat from Ted Lowe that surveyed 1,000 parents about their spending and found that 62% of parents agree with this statement. I spend more for my kids over the holidays than I should have. 62% of us. While most parents use their current income, 56%, and credit cards, 47% to cover holiday spending. A surprising percentage, you guys aren't going to believe this, have also tapped into their retirement savings of 7% and their emergency fund of 9%, because even though it's coming from a good heart, we're doing it, right? We're feeling the pressure. And so many dads that are listening right now are feeling the pressure like we are.
Yeah. I think another problem with spending, or not just spending, overspending on your kids is it's setting a bad example for them. It demonstrates that dad might have a lack of self-control. And I don't want my kids to think that I'm not in control of anything, much less family finances. And if we as dads don't have the ability to say no, the ability to wait, why should we expect our kids to have the ability to say no or to wait when it comes to spending? And my daughter, my youngest daughter is 5, and that kid, you cannot take her to a store. My goodness, she is super spender. She loves the idea of shopping, and every aisle she's like, oh, I definitely need 4 of these. And I'm like, no, you don't. And she's like, oh, but I just want one. And she's got those little puppy dog eyes and all that. And it's hard to say no. But if I tell her yes every time, even if it's like a $2 item that I can buy for her and we won't even notice, I don't say yes every time because then the expectation is there, or she'll learn that there's really no limit. We can just get whatever we want. And I don't want to demonstrate that lack of self-control. And so with her, because she's a lot younger, I say no more often, even though the things she wants are cheaper and I could get them, because I don't want to start that problem. It's not necessarily teaching her the value of money because she's still kind of young, but we don't just buy stuff because we can. I don't think that's a good example to set for my kids.
That's good. I mean, I like that. I think it's, kind of going back to something Ted said too, just the pressure that you feel, the example that you said is definitely, but the pressure that parents feel, like here's one of the things we don't realize is we put all this pressure on ourselves to create this great childhood for our kids. And we don't realize that our kids pick up on that pressure. and they pick up on all these things that we're doing for their happiness. Therefore, it inadvertently puts pressure on them to be happy. Like, I'm doing like the subtle messages. Some parents will say this out loud. I'm doing this all for you. Can you just be happy? Like some parents say that, but even if you're not saying it, it's coming through to the kids. Like, I'm doing all this. They can see the disappointment that we're feeling when we shell out all this money. And that's why that Disney is the best place to see it, because you spend all this money and then the kids are melting down and then you see the parents getting ticked off and fighting with each other and yelling at the kids. Like it's such a perfect example of this, like throwing money at this stuff for your kids to be happy. And here's another question too with it. Is it good for the parents? Is it good for us to be so stressed out? Like, because this stresses it. Number one, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves too. Our kids have to have the best childhood possible because we don't want them to come out of their childhood feeling trauma or pain or all of this stuff. Like none of us wants our kids to go through trauma. But do we think about the fact that pain is good? Like that's a good thing? It's a good thing. Pain and suffering develops character in our kids. Yeah. And we throw money at things to try to remove all of that. Yeah. And it really ends up being a stumbling block for them. And it creates all this pressure on us, like financial pressure, like your credit card pressure, then potentially, if we're spending our retirement on Christmas every year, well, we're going to end up living with our kids and being a burden. So there are all these things. Is it good for the parents? Probably, no. And then we have no idea that it's creating all this anxiety on our kids.
Yeah. And delayed gratification is pain, but it's also an important lesson. My son plays hockey. He's 10 and just all in on this sport. I mean, we've tried to get him to play other sports. He didn't want to. He just wants to play hockey, which is fine. He's passionate about it. But we made it very clear to him that even in the world of hockey, there's a difference between need and want. And so he needed a helmet. He outgrew the little helmet he was wearing. And so my wife and I bought him the most expensive helmet that we could buy for the age because it's about safety. We need him to be safe. Kids at that age are banging around. They're falling down. Like, you need to have your head protected. So we needed to get him a helmet. We overspent on a helmet because it was safe. He wanted a new stick. And the new sticks are like $300 if you want to get like the high end stuff for that age. We did not buy him that one. I said, we're going to get you the more, cost-effective one. Eventually, later on, Grandma and Grandpa bought it for him as a gift for Christmas or whatever it was. But there's a difference. We don't overspend on needs, in my opinion. We overspend on wants. And if you can determine the difference and you can explain that to a child, then that's a really good lesson for them to learn. I don't see a problem overspending on a piece of safety equipment. I do see a problem overspending on a stick. Then you can just have a little bit cheaper one. You still play,
Every time you talk about hockey, I'm just so glad.
You get triggered, right?
I'm just glad my son quit.
Yeah, it's expensive, man.
Yeah, it's very expensive. I think one of the things that we did that kind of helps teach some of this stuff by the way, there's so much that we don't do well. There are so many post Christmases that I'm like, good grief. What did we do? But one of the things I think that we have done well is when we go on trips, when we do take these trips, we give our kids, $25, $30, and say, this is your money and this is for you to spend. You can spend it on whatever you want, but you could spend it on day one, but you don't have any money left. Like if you want to get candy or treats at a stop off place, if you want to get a toy, you can get a toy, but once it's gone, it's gone. And there would be so many times my son just didn't want to make the right decision. He didn't want to make the wrong decision. Ted, he was like, do you think this is good to buy? And I had to tell him, I said, you have to really weigh this yourself, buddy. And you may get something that you're like, this wasn't worth it. But that's the little bit of pain that I want you to feel like, oh, this wasn't working. Because then you learn, boy, I need to save my money for something that I really, really want. Or, I'm able to zero in on what are the things that I really, really want here.
Well, And as somebody who grew up with the extras and my dad trying to, I think, feeling guilty about my mom and was just trying to fix that. Somebody who grew up with a lot of extras, like as soon as I'm out of college, I'm like, I have no concept of money. And there was so much emotional ties to it. And so I think we all want to be balanced as dads on teaching them and about spending and about saving. So, but let's dive into some action steps for us as dads to avoid spending too much, because there's got to strike a balance. And, even like Bobby, like your dad said, even if we have it, do we need to? What's it teaching our kid? Here's a couple action steps. Number one is we got to take a really hard look at our spending habits around our kids. Is it excessive? What's it accomplishing? Is it teaching your child how to love and care for others? Is it helping your child to grow in character? Like, we've got to really take a look at, what are we communicating with money around our kids?
Yeah. One question that I ask myself whenever I'm thinking about possibly overspending, if I have to judge whether or not I am overspending by saying, am I buying this for me? Obviously, they're going to receive it if it's a toy, if it's, a shirt or whatever. They're the ones receiving the item, but am I buying it for me to make me feel good about what I gave them? Am I doing it to make me feel better? Am I making up for a shortcoming somewhere? Am I trying to be that like Disney World dad who's got the $18 balloon? Like, you don't have to have that. Am I overspending for me, or am I spending it on them because I want it for them? And that's a hard decision sometimes because, like we've talked about, you want your kids to be happy. Everyone likes to see the kid light up when you hand them the little toy, but it's not always best. And so, am I doing this for them, or am I doing this for me? That's a really good question for us to be asking as dads.
That's good.
I think another thing, and on the flip side, so it's good to look at it with the kids, but take a hard look, if this is your action step 2, take a hard look at what this is doing to you. Because a lot of times you get parents who are kind of like, well, whatever, I'll take the hit. And, for my kids, I'll take the hit for my kids. But this kind of thing will it'll impact your kids. If you're living with constant stress, if it's causing stress in your marriage, if it's causing having negative impact on your health, all these things you need to look at. What kind of toll is this taking on you? Do you feel pressure to give your kids the best of everything? You shouldn't be feeling pressure for that. You should feel a desire and give your kids some good things and create memories and all that stuff. But if it is exhausting you, if it's exhausting all of your resources, that's not the way that's when you move into a problem place.
I really enjoyed our conversation a couple of months ago with Dale Alexander. We had 2 chats with him on the podcast, one about how dads should manage money, and that was really insightful. But also he had a really good conversation with us about how should we teach our kids about money. And he opened my eyes to a lot of great things. We'll link those down in the description, the show notes here, because those are worth listening to as well. But one of the things that he said is, you're teaching your kids their future money habits today. I want them to steward their money well, so I've got to do it well. And when we get into the habit of overspending, I don't think we're setting a great example. So go listen to those episodes with Dale. They're really good.
That's good, Bobby. That's a great reminder. He was the happiest guy talking about saving money I've ever seen, which saving money, it's really sad for me. So, we need a different point of view. And I think I'm going to be the expert on spending too much. No, I'm just kidding. No, you guys, in all seriousness, this is one of those questions I'm really glad that we're trying to wrestle to the ground here. And I don't think we think about it enough, that question of, are you spending too much money on your kids? Because the real issue, I think we've said this, is to ask yourself is, what is your spending habits on your kids communicating to your kids? What is it saying to them about budgeting, or, like we said, delayed gratification, or the need to keep up with others? That's why this week's pro move is this: to identify 2 to 3 significant items or experiences you've provided for your child and ask yourself, what lesson is it teaching them about money, patience, and value? If the answer isn't clear, or if it feels negative, we need to hit the brakes and reconsider.
This was a dangerous one to have the day before my daughter's birthday, just so you know, because her birthday's tomorrow. And
you're going to show up with a cup ball and go, honey, here's a cup. Kick it outside.
Here is a printout of what a cake looks like, child. Have a great birthday.
And we're going to take all your toys back to the store.
That's right.
That's right. Well, you guys, thank you. And to our listeners, if this podcast is helpful for you, can you take 1 minute to rate and review it? That's how other dads can find our show. And if you have a question that you think we need to dive into, please leave those in the comments. We would greatly appreciate that. And as always, thank you for listening. We know you and your kids will be glad that you did.
Thanks again for listening to the All Pro Dad podcast. Behind every episode is our amazing team. Producer, Haley Mawat, audio and video editor, Buck Buchanan, and production coordinator, Corey Walliff. All Pro Dad is the fatherhood program of the nonprofit Family First. Along with our motherhood program, iMom, we exist to help you love your family well. So remember, if you have more questions than answers, then you're probably in the right place. See you next time.